going to be going over the Irene Adaptive Sling made by Mission Spec. And Brent over at Mission Spec was kind enough to send us 2 slings. I have one here, and my husband has one here. And one of the reasons that I have my husband here to help me is because I've never really used a sling before. This is actually the first sling I have ever used on a rifle. Typically, my rifle experience is you put it in the case, you take it to the range, you take it out of the case, you shoot, you put it back in the case, you bring it home. So I've never really needed a sling until we started shooting side matches with IUPA that required a sling. And right about that time was when Brent contacted me for doing the review for this sling. So I've been testing it out for a couple weeks with this small attachment. And we got my husband hooked up here with a little bit of a larger attachment. And he's going to be the one who's going to go over a little bit more about what he looks for in a sling, because he actually had 6 years experience in the United States Marine Corps and combat experience, so he's actually had to carry a rifle on a sling in an actual combative environment, so he's much more able to talk about it educatedly, that's a word, than I am. So I'm going to turn it over to my husband.
Just to start off with, I was in the Marine Corps from 98 to 2003 and a little bit in the reserves, and I was mostly in the light armored community, and I was not infantry, but I spent a lot of time in the back of a iron box on wheels in an LAV, so a lot of my perspective on these slings is based on that. And while I was not an infantry person, I was with an infantry unit, with a line company, and we did the field ops and the humps and a little bit of action in southeastern Iraq. And I'm going to compare the Irene Adaptive Sling to the 2 slings that I used while in the Marine Corps, which was your basic GI issue 2-point sling, and prior to my deployment in 2002-2003, I had a Black Hawk 3-point sling, and I've had a Spectre sling similar to that afterwards. So I'm just going to make some comparisons and talk about some points of what I like in a sling and what I like about this sling, what I didn't like about other slings, and just some general comparisons.
How much mess is it?
Alright, now what I mean by that question, or what she means by that question, rather, is when the rifle's not on your body, how much mess is hanging off the rifle. Now, like you look at this, and now the good thing about this sling is when the rifle's off your body, you don't have to leave the sling on it. You can still wear the sling and just detach the rifle from the sling, and that'll keep. Basically, you can put the rifle wherever you want, like if you're in a vehicle, and the sling is not going to get caught up in anything. The GI 2-point sling, you could cinch it down nice and tight and keep it out of the way. The Black Hawk 3-point sling that I had couldn't quite do that as well, and it always ended up getting tangled up in the back of the vehicle.
Method of attachment.
Alright, methods of attachment. The GI 2-point sling basically looped around through the front sling swivel, and you had a hook that went in through the buttstock. And it was pretty basic, pretty easy. The Black Hawk sling that I had was a little bit more of a pain in the butt. You had a little Velcro loop that would get tied in around here into the front sling, and more Velcro in the back. And Velcro just sucks. You know, it makes noise, it gets all frayed, it doesn't last. The Irene Adaptive Sling uses what they call mash hooks, which are pretty good. It's a little bit easier to put on than it is to take off. That's one thing that I would recommend that they change. However, I really don't have a better solution, so I really don't like complaining about it without an idea on how to fix it.
What about adjustment?
Adjustment. The GI 2-point sling was very easy to adjust, except for like if you're on the 500-yard line doing the loop sling and all that. You know, I still can't do that in under 5 minutes. The adjustments for the Black Hawk 3-point sling, that was pretty user-friendly. It didn't take a whole lot to get that done. You could do it by yourself. When my unit first got the M4s issued to the scouts and crewmen and everybody, the slings that came with those things were just crap, and everybody was just looking at them like they came from Mars. They didn't know how to put them on, didn't know how to adjust them, and this comes a long way from that. This is comes with a nice instruction sheet on how to do the adjustments, a nice little color instruction sheet at that, and it's pretty good. And when you're adjusting your gear like this, I probably suggest the best way is to actually have all your gear on, put the sling on, put your weapon on the sling, and have a buddy actually make the adjustments for you. Once you get it done, leave it alone. Don't mess with the keepers, don't make any further adjustments, just leave it the way it is.
Well, and the kind of, just to interject, the adjustments that we did on this sling to make it fit him, this sling, this one here came in its smallest configuration, and we really didn't have to move it. If I wanted to, I could cinch it up a little bit tighter by cutting just a little bit of the webbing. But on his, the adjustments we made were right in here to make this wider, to come around his body a little bit better, so that it could be a little bit easier for him to access all of the adjustments, because he's got a wider chest. And what we also did was we put hash marks on on the sling where his preferred adjustment was, so if we wanted to try and adjust it and we didn't like it, we could put it right back to the way he really did like it. And it's got all these, it's got many different keepers, and we'll show you the adjustments for the cinching as well. But it wasn't really that hard to adjust, like he said, once you got it on his body. And I was the one who's kind of adjusting things, and he could tell me, you know what, adjust a little bit right here because it's a little tight. I want a little bit more access to this. Really easy adjustment when you got a buddy doing it.
If you're doing it yourself, just stay in frame. If you're doing it by yourself, it's going to be a little bit more trial and error. Oh, is this right? Is this right? And you might have to take it off once you have your mag carriers on, your deuce gear on. It's going to be a little bit more complicated. Going back to method of attachment while she's in frame, the sling is meant to be used with an end plate that actually has a sling adapter on it. And if you don't have that style end plate, they have a buffer tube attachment. This is for temporary use only until you can get a proper end plate installed. And this is just a little nylon strap with a D-ring. And what we found is, ideally, this should be super glued in place to keep the rings out of the way of the charging handle. But in any kind of actual stressful environment where you're actually manipulating the weapon a lot, that's probably going to come loose, and it can actually bind up your charging handle and keep it from being pulled fully to the rear. And that's going to totally hose you up for any kind of malfunction drills. That's not very good. Get a proper end plate with the sling attachment, and per the website, this will work with the Magpul ambidextrous sling point. You actually want to adjust this a little bit longer for me?
The easiest way to adjust this, just for simple, giving it out just a little bit or taking it in just a little bit, is with this point here. Do you want it tighter or looser? You want it looser? You just pull this portion up here, however far you want it, if you want it a few inches or whatever, and then, here, turn just a little bit, and then you have this quick release right here. You pull that up, and you already loosened it up a little bit. So, and if you want it more, you just keep doing that. And then with it on the back like this, you can do the easy cinch to bring it in for, just keeping it tight to the back and to the body. And just to show you the difference in our size, he's got it that way, and he's got a little bit of excess. And just for how tiny I am, I have a little bit more excess, but you can really cinch it up tight to the back. And then you can just grab this, pull it out, flip it around, and you're good to go.
Oh, much better.
All right, what about comfort? How comfortable is it?
Comfort with the GI 2-point sling, it really wasn't very comfortable for long periods of time because all of the weight was right here on your shoulder, and while the strap was wider, it would still kind of dig in a little bit, and it never really sat right on the flak jacket. It would either always be too far in or too far out. It was just a pain in the butt. The Black Hawk 3-point sling that I had was very comfortable, except for a while on hikes. It just never seemed to carry in the right spot with a pack, or would sit too low or be too high and end up kicking it with your legs. And this is much better. You can keep it up nice and high in the 2-point mode, and even in the 1-point mode. Not that you would still have this for a while, but you can keep it out of the way, and the weight is just very nicely distributed with the sling. It might be better with a little bit of a wider strap, but it's pretty good as it is.
Now, what about expedience and transitioning from the 1 point to the 2 point and 2 point back to 1 point?
Basically, that question is just how easy is this to manipulate to get it from 2 point to 1 point, 1 point to 2 point, etc., etc. Getting it from 2 point to 1 point is getting a little bit easier with practice. The mash hook can hang up with it a little bit, and you might have to fight with it. It's a little bit easier to put it on because you're actually looking at the hook while you're doing it a little bit more. But even just going from 2 point to 1 point, it transitions pretty easily.
All right, now the Irene Adaptive Sling also comes with a quick detach.
Only in the 1 point mode, which I will demonstrate. Comes right loose, very quickly, very easily.
Now, what about the durability of the hardware?
The hardware looks very good. A lot of the earlier slings I saw, or especially the little crap sling that came with the Bushmaster, the plastic just looked really cheap, and I could just visualize everything breaking. This stuff actually looks pretty tough. I'm not sure if this would actually qualify as a plastic or a polymer, but it looks pretty sturdy. I'm not too worried that it's going to break on me.
And as a first-time user to to slings in general, not even just this sling, but we already showed the cinching method for this, how you can cinch it up. It's tight on your back, and then it's really easy just to uncinch it, get it to go, detach, and it's right out there for ready to use. And obviously it's a little more loose on me than it is on my husband, but having that option, and of course another really great thing about it is the fact that when you're transitioning from 1 point to 2 point or 2 point to 1 point, it never leaves your body. If you drop it in the process, your body's going to catch it. Nothing's going to, it's not going to fall and hit the dirt or anything like that. So that's really good to have. The hook here, when not in use, just pulls parallel to the sling, so you don't have to worry about it catching up on anything. It's just real smooth, and you can use it, fight with it, do whatever you need to, and then transition back to your 2 point mode. And even just for taking it off, if you want to just detach here and slip it off, you have yourself almost a pretty comfortable just 2 point sling. You don't even have to really worry about that being attached until you put it on, and you can just leave that on and transition it back and forth. And so that's what I like about it. For the first real sling that I've ever used, I'm really glad to have something like this instead of even a simpler sling or even a more complex sling. This is pretty. I won't say it's the easiest sling in the world, but once you have it the way that you want it, you really don't have to move it, and it's very useful for a lot of different situations. So as a first-timer, yeah, I'd recommend this sling. Changes you'd like to see made?
Some changes I'd like to see, like I said, the quick detach for a 2 point mode would be really good, because like I said, especially if you're on a hump or something, you're going to find this weapon in 2 point mode with your pack and everything, and it would be nice just to be able to just pop it off loose and get it off you in a hurry if you need to. And possibly a different hook. The Magpul MS2 has some interesting hardware. Not really crazy about all aspects of it, but I do like their quick detach a little bit better. It's a little more intuitive for quick release. But the mash hooks are very sturdy, and when the mash hooks are on, they're not coming off unless you want them to, which is a good thing, which can't be said regarding the quick detach of the Magpul sling. And yeah, like I said, it's a very good sling. The strap might be able to be a little bit wider if you prefer a wider strap. This is a 1 inch sling. I know some people like a 1 1/4, but the 1 inch is pretty good. Other than that, not much I'd really change about it, and I like it.
All right, here is going to be a close-up look of the Mission Spec Irene Adaptive Sling, and here is the rear mash hook. You can see just how stiff and good quality these mesh hooks are, and just the thickness and the toughness of all the points here. The quick detach for the middle. You have a lot of adjustment abilities here, and you have it quite, this one, as I said, was let out quite a bit for my husband. This is on my husband's Noveski, but on mine here, this one's mine, this is my Bushmaster here. You can see how tightly cinched it is up, and you can see how much material is left, so you can really adjust this out or in however you need it to be. Really great quality hooks. Very, very nice strong webbing all the way around. Here's the quick, the quick cinching here. That's what that's for. But in general, just a really great product. Both of our ARs here, really great product. And here, let me go ahead and get a close-up of that temporary adaptation here. Like I said, this is a temporary adaptation. This is made for you, so you can use it immediately, but should be replaced with a end plate. Thank you. So that you don't end up having this happen as it flops around, because it will interfere with the charging handle if it comes loose. So there you go. There you have the Mission Spec Irene Adaptive Sling.